Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us today. We have an action-packed show for you today. We're going to be sitting down, I should say, with Lee Smith. He's a brilliant author and columnist. We're going to take up the Trump transition team, where they're at right now, where they're heading, and the roadblocks they face ahead. We also are going to take up some of the issues that I believe the Trump administration is in the early stages is going to face. With some of these Democrat holdovers from the Biden administration, who I believe are going to try to sneak their way into the Trump administration to do all they can to harm him and stymie any sort of things he wants to push forward with the America First agenda. So as I said, our guest today, we're going to get right into it, is Lee Smith, journalist and brilliant author. Lee Smith, he's the author of an all-new book, folks. I recommend it all to you highly. Go out and get a copy for yourself, get a copy for our friends. The title, Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for Our Republic. Lee joins us now. Lee, as I said, always a pleasure to have you here, a brilliant mind. Last week, we saw President Trump and former President Obama at the Jimmy Carter funeral getting a little bit too close for comfort, in my opinion. A lip-reading expert says the conversation between the two went something like this. Trump says to Obama, "I can't talk. We have to find a quiet place sometime. This is a matter of importance, and we need to do this outside. We can deal with it today, certainly." The two talking before the processions started. What could Trump have possibly wanted to tell Obama that was so important that got Kamala Harris pissing and moaning that their two were talking?
Well, I know what I would like Trump to have told Obama, which is that you have to, this town's only big enough for one sheriff. This country's only big enough for one sheriff, and that's me, and you better get out of town, or we're going to round up all your cowpokes and put you all in the, put you all in the hoosegow, or whatever, however you put it, whatever the country Western movie language is for that. But I mean, I've been arguing this for a while now, that Barack Obama, there should not be a shadow White House operating out of Washington, D.C., that he's a former president. He should leave Washington, D.C. as other residences in Massachusetts and Hawaii, and he should move to one of them. So I don't know what he said, but I mean, I certainly think that that's important, because because it was Barack Obama who's been running the 8-year-long campaign against Donald Trump. I mean, it was Obama's spy chiefs. It was not Hillary Clinton. Remember, in 2016, if it's just Hillary Clinton, none of this stuff gets off the ground as an intelligence operation if it's not for Barack Obama's spy chiefs, especially James Comey and John Brennan. So Hillary Clinton was running a ugly, dirty trick, calling Donald Trump a Russian spy, but the person who was really running that operation was Barack Obama. Whether if we see Obama picking up his tent stakes and moving out of the Colorado area within the next week or so, then I'm going to guess that is what Trump said. He said, "Move along, little doggy." But aside from that, that's it. If we don't see that, then we'll find out soon, or we won't. Maybe it's an issue of national security, and Barack Obama has some details on that Donald Trump doesn't. But we'll see.
The thing that's mind-blowing to me, Lee, is the fact that you saw how many of these folks. I mean, Obama 6 months ago was on a stage calling Trump pretty much Hitler. Yet every time they're together, there's always smile and there's always some sort of laughter, which begs the question. I mean, is there a real animus towards President Trump from Obama? What is the driving factor behind his hatred of President Trump?
Well, I mean, is it entirely personal? Some of it's personal. I mean, we've seen the footage of, what was it? The White House Correspondents Association dinner. Was that 2014 or what year was it? Maybe it was early. It was 2011, I think, something like that. And, I mean, Trump was talking about Obama's birth certificate. But of course, it's important to remember the people who were pushing that operation, those were Obama's opponents, Obama's Democratic Party opponents. Hillary Clinton, Sidney Blumenthal was pushing that. That's where it came from. And of course, Trump got interested in this story too. And there's a fascinating CNN clip from several years ago, more than a decade ago now, I imagine, where Donald Trump had really run this down, and he absolutely believed that Barack Obama was not born in Hawaii. And, I mean, John, it's not something I've made a careful study of, but I think it's, I think it's pretty serious, that there's a case to be made. If you look at his first book, when his book agent said that he was born in Kenya, and then the intern there said, "Oh, I made a mistake. I thought he was born in Kenya." And so, so that's part of Obama's personal animus, but also there's just a regular political animus. I mean, Donald Trump said, "I'm going to undo all the different things that Barack Obama did." And Barack Obama is saying, "There's nothing you can do about getting those jobs back from China." Donald Trump said, "Well, yeah, I can do it." He undid the Iran deal. He withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and Trump got out, and I believe it was May 2018. And this was the core of Barack Obama's foreign policy legacy. So, yeah, and if I were Donald Trump, I would have some personal hold some personal animus toward Barack Obama as well. It's like, yeah, I know. Remember in March 2017 when Trump tweeted, "Yeah, I just found out that Barack Obama had my wiretap the phones at Trump Tower," and everyone made fun of Trump in 2017. "Oh, psycho! He's paranoid. How dare he?" But that turned out to be entirely true. So I think that what we're watching is we're watching the public faces of two people who I imagine don't like each other very much at all. On the other hand, we know that Donald Trump, we don't know as much about Barack Obama. We know that Donald Trump is extremely forgiving.
Yes.
Probably sometimes he forgives people he shouldn't be forgiving.
I say that very often here on the show. I disagree with President Trump maybe 0.1% of the time. And part of the issue that I often say is he's far too nice of a guy. He gives far too many chances, and he's been backstabbed more than anybody that we've ever seen in that White House. And he gives these people second chances. I mean, even recently we've seen Morgan Ortagus being appointed to a special envoy role, who spent the last 4 years going after him, siding with DeSantis, scratching DeSantis' back any chance she got. And President Trump puts out this press statement saying, well, hopefully she learned her lesson. There's far too many people in this world that we should be taking the risk, putting them in positions to say, have you learned your lesson or not?
Well, there's a whole bunch of people who have, I'll give you one interpretation, then I'll just say why I don't agree with it. One interpretation is that Donald Trump has a very large coalition, a number of people who helped put him in the White House. And, he owes all of those people something. I actually don't believe that's true. Yeah. I think that, there are different people who helped Donald Trump, like RFK Jr., Elon Musk, but they didn't put him in the White House. Tulsi Gabbard didn't put him in the White House, right? None of these people put him in the White House. None of these people stood up on stage July 13th in Pennsylvania and got shot in the face, right? The people who put Donald Trump in the White House are American voters. And from what we understand from number crunchers is Trump won because they managed to get out a whole bunch of low propensity voters, meaning people who hardly ever vote. That was it, right? It wasn't RFK Jr. It wasn't Elon Musk. It wasn't Tulsi Gabbard. Certainly wasn't Vivek Ramaswamy. Right. But nonetheless, Donald Trump has brought all of these people into his tent and has welcomed them all and is now, rewarding some of them. And I'm sure that some of them will do a good job. And I'm concerned, as you are, and I'm sure most of your awesome audience is concerned too, that some of them won't do a good job. And that they will be processed quickly. They will be processed out as quickly as they were processed in to Donald Trump's large tent. Right.
A lot of good points you brought up there, Lee, especially regarding some of these people. I'd even argue a guy like Scott Pressler was more instrumental in carrying Donald Trump, not carrying, I should phrase it that way, but helping Donald Trump across the finish line in states like Pennsylvania, where he was on the ground registering grassroots voters. He's doing it now in New Jersey, so we'll see the effect of that in the next election. But you're absolutely right. Some of these folks who believe they're owed something. Elon Musk, I love the man. I think he's brilliant, smartest man in the world, richest man in the world. But there's an issue, and I was scared you weren't going to be on the same side of it as me. So I looked at your Twitter a few weeks ago when it was going on, and it turned out you were.
John, that we're usually on the same side, though. I get more excited, and I speak more clearly even when I'm arguing with you. I feel like I really have to bear down and use my words carefully. There's fewer ums and ahs, and so let's pick something soon that we disagree over 100%, and I'll actually sound like I know what I'm talking about because I'll be more focused. But it's great to agree with you because we're both solid guys, or dingbats, some people will say.
And on the right side of history.
And we're on the right side, of course, on the right side of history. Yes, if you conceive of it as an arc history, right. If you see like Barack Obama, if you see it as an arc, it's good to be on the right. It's good. If any of you have been to St. Louis and seen the arc there, right? You want to be on the right side of it.
So I want to take up that issue that it's been instrumental, and a lot of people on Twitter upset about it. Some being even censored about it. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we return, we're going to take up H-1B visas.
Yeah.
And the stance President Trump had in 2016 versus the stance he now has on it after he's brought on Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. I want to take that up because I think it's very important, the stance he had. And it was something that was near and dear to Lou Dobbs' heart going back 20 years, Lee, when nobody was talking about this. You don't believe me? Right. You can go find those clips on CNN. So we're going to take a quick break here. We're talking with a brilliant author, Lee Smith. Folks, I encourage you all to go out and buy Lee's new book, Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. You can get it on Amazon books, wherever you guys buy your books, Barnes & Nobles. I encourage you all to get a copy for yourself, for your friends, for your family members. Every book Lee writes is absolutely brilliant. Folks, we're coming right back with Lee Smith. Stay with us.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented My Pillow. My Pillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got My Pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King My Pillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic My Pillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. We're talking with Lee Smith. And as I mentioned before we went to break, Lee's new book, Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic, a must-buy. There's no other way to put it. Every book Lee writes is absolutely brilliant. Lee, H-1B visas. President Trump had a stance on it in 2016, much of the likes of one that Lou Dobbs had. We have Americans who need jobs. We shouldn't be going overseas to get these people. So Vivek Ramaswamy 2 weeks ago thinks it's smart to tweet out that Americans are lazy. Pretty much, this is paraphrasing. Americans are lazy. They're not smart enough. Our kids now are worried about watching Boy Meets World on television instead of going out and testing. Now, part of what he said is true. Our American education system is failing us. There's no doubt about that. You can look down the board, up, down, whichever way you want to look at. Kids are underperforming in every single aspect of literacy, mathematics, sciences compared to other countries, especially China and India. Okay, there's no doubt about that. But the way that Vivek proposes that we fix this issue is to bring more Indians into the country for H-1B visas instead of looking at the core problem of fixing our schooling system, getting rid of these tenured teachers who think that it's okay just to go to school, do a job, and go home and not teach our children. So to what I say to Vivek and Elon Musk, if you guys are so intent on having these foreigners because you say they're smarter than Americans, let's propose a 50% to 100% tariff on each one that you bring into this country. If tariffs work on goods, Lee, they work on human beings. And we'll see how fast your whole Americans are stupid proposition works. What do you think, Lee?
Well, let's break this down into two parts. Let's talk about the H-1B visa second. What I want to talk about first is the way that Vivek put this, right? John, there are very few people on the right who think that American education is heading in the right direction, or that doesn't need to be fixed. But of course, Vivek said nothing about that. In fact, he underscored the point, and it's not about college because it happens earlier. So what this was, what was so I was going to say impolitic, but it's not. It was rude. It was boorish. What he said was it starts much earlier. And then he started talking about sleepovers. He started talking about kids watching cartoons. So it's about families. It's about parents. And what he was doing was insulting American families and insulting American parents, saying, your parents suck. Yeah. They didn't raise you right, unlike my family who raised me right. So I'm sorry. If you're going to be talking to Americans, right, and if you're going to be in a position of power, and by the way, unelected, if you're going to serve as an appointed official, you better learn how to speak to Americans a little differently, right? That was garbage. Yep. And it was also garbage when Elon Musk jumped in and said, you know, I F yourself in the face. Of course, everyone knows that line comes from what was it? The big Justin Tropic Thunder, right? Tropic Thunder. There was nothing funny about it, right? There was nothing funny about it because the point was what? If you fight me on something that matters to me, I will destroy you. Like, okay, another guy who's an unelected official, and this is how he decides to talk to Americans. So go to hell, the two of you, go to hell, okay? Here's the story about the H-1B, and I know Lou was on this a long time ago, right? The H-1B is an instrument designed to push Americans out of STEM fields. Right. Yes. That's what it was. It was designed to hurt and punish Americans. It's a terrible, terrible thing. So when I hear people like Elon Musk say, well, of course we had to reform it. So what does reforming it mean? Reforming means like, here's an instrument designed to hurt Americans, to push them out of STEM fields. Right. And so let's reform it so that it hurts them a little less. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And look at the argument these guys were making for it. Oh, it's for exceptional workers. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's for foreign workers to come in. Many of them are extraordinarily mediocre, right? Yep. What the purpose of it was to suppress wages, to suppress American wages in these particular industries, especially tech. That's why it was devised. It was an instrument. Higher ed came up with it because higher ed likes foreign students coming in because they bill them full tuition. Yep. And tech industry liked it as well because it meant cheaper labor. So the idea that somehow this is what's going to save America. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing for 30 years. And America's in a bad situation right now in tech because of this one thing. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to double down on the same thing. So it's absolutely garbage. But the most offensive thing was like, look, if someone wants to make an argument and say, I support the H-1B visa, as many people do, I disagree with them wholeheartedly for the reason I said. All you want to do is hurt American workers. Then go ahead, make your case. That's what our country is. Go ahead, make your case. Lobby for your cause. Why is it good for me? Okay, I'm going to make up some crazy story to obscure the fact that it just saves me a lot of money hiring these foreigners instead of Americans. Make your case. Make your argument. For Pete's sake, you're welcome to it. But here's what you don't do. Once you come into our house and once you start insulting American families, not saying it's the educational system it would have been so easy to say the educational system is betraying American families, betraying American kids, betraying American workers. You know, I'm with you, man. Now where are you going to take me? How are we going to fix it? But I love the way you're selling this. I love the way you're framing this because I totally agree. And I think like almost everyone agrees with you. But again, once you come in, once you walk in to a PTA meeting where I am and you say, all of you suck, you don't know how to raise your kids. Once you walk into my living room and you say, you should turn off the TV, you're raising your kids to be morons. I'm like, all right, now we're in different territory. And so that was my big problem with it. Not just the H-1B visa. It's the way that these guys thought that they can talk to Americans. Very bad.
You know, there's an old saying Lou used to use all the time, you know, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining outside. And that's exactly what folks like Elon and Vivek are doing. And things were going so swimmingly well. They've managed now to bring Donald Trump onto their side. Lou was so staunch on this back in 2016 and 17. I think he went after Senator Mike Lee and referred to him as the senator from Mumbai. Mike Lee has since come, I think, further right than we ever expected him to, and some of these folks are going further left. This is a statement.
We'll see what happens with the president-elect. I think. I mean, I'd like to believe. Look, I mean, I think he was. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm just giving you my sense of it. I think he was probably trying to calm down, especially Elon, and just say, yeah, right, I agree with him, and I'm very hopeful that this thing will be worked out. To the advantage of American workers, the advantage of Americans. Look, how long have people been complaining, right? We see these reports all the time from Congress, how dangerous it is that we don't have enough Americans going to STEM fields. I'm like, well, it's a self-inflicted national security problem. Congress did it to us again with higher ed and tech. And so I'm hopeful that Donald Trump will agree with what appears to be his basis position, that this is not good for American workers.
This was Donald Trump's statement in March of 2016. Yeah. Megyn Kelly asked about high-skilled immigration. Trump saying, quote, the H-1B program is neither high-skilled nor immigration. These are temporary foreign workers imported from abroad for explicit purposes of substituting for American workers at lower pay. I remain totally committed to eliminating rampant, widespread H-1B abuse and ending the outrageous practices such as those that occurred at Disney in Florida when Americans were forced to train the foreign replacement. I will end the forever use of H-1B visas as cheap labor program and institute an absolute requirement to hire American workers first for every visa and immigration program, no exception. So I just don't understand. And this goes back to the point what you said about owing people something for getting you across the finish line, apparently. I mean, do you think he holds strong on this? I just don't. Lou Dobbs is rolling in his grave, that poor man, because this is something he fought for. The American people is the reason why Lou did this job. Lou didn't do it for the money. He did it because he believed in something. He believed in a product, and it was the education system in this country, Lee. It was the border system in this country. It was the foreign policy in this country. And each and every one of those situations, those areas, is failing us, especially the school system. Do you think Donald Trump addresses the core of this issue? And it is our schooling system. It is not that Americans are lazy. We're not lazy.
No, we're not lazy. But also, look, our public education system in many places is really bad. But also, we graduate a lot of smart kids. I was talking to a veteran of the U.S. Army. He said, the idea that rural kids aren't capable of meeting certain challenges. Well, they should see them on the battlefield, not just in terms of combat, right? In terms of what they can make, in terms of what they can improvise. So, look, I agree that our education system needs lots of work, but this is far from the case that Americans are entirely in need of remedial education. No, we're pretty talented people, right? And again, the way to put this might have been like DEI is terrible. Look at what DEI is costing us around the country. It's awful, and we got to get Americans back in here. But that's not the way they put it. I believe, again, as I said, I don't know. I would like to think, I am hopeful that Donald Trump was making peace and also perhaps nudging Elon to be less aggressive with American voters, with Donald Trump's base. And again, so I'm hopeful that the president-elect, soon to be president, will come around and realize that this is a big problem for the people who not only voted for him, but many people who love him. Again, that's who this president, as much as anyone, owes. The American voter. People, Donald Trump, when he said he took a bullet for America, that's correct. But there's lots of Americans out there who are hurting, and they supported Donald Trump. And so this is one thing that I always believed in whenever Donald Trump says, they're coming after you, but I'm just in the way. And that's true. But he should also embrace the people who got in the way for him, the people who supported him, his voters. These are the January 6th defendants. These are people who risked an awful lot. Some didn't even know how much they were risking to support Donald Trump. Look at all the pro-life activists. Look at all the PTA parents, in fact, who were targeting for standing up for American values and American virtues. Those people are Donald Trump supporters. Elon Musk did not put Donald Trump in the White House.
Yeah, you couldn't put it any way better than you put it, Lee. I want to take one more quick break here. When we come back, I want to take up your latest piece for Tablet Mag. The
Thanks.
Deep State Strikes Back. I want to get into that. I want to get into the transition team. And I want to talk about some of these intel agencies and America on the world stage as we look forward now to about over a week until President Trump is back. Folks, Lee Smith, the book is Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. Go to Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, wherever you folks buy your books, EncounterBooks.com, wherever you guys buy your books. Get a copy for yourself. Get a copy for a family member. Always highly educational. Anything Lee Smith writes, we recommend to you highly. We're coming right back with Lee Smith. Stay with us.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that we're making it through. My employees and I want to thank you for your continued support by extending our wholesale prices on classic MyPillows. Get standard classic MyPillows only $14.98. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.98. But it gets even better. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.98. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows $29.98 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including my standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.98, Kings only $1 more. Not only that, order $75 or more, ship absolutely free. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
Folks, we're back. We're talking with Lee Smith, brilliant author of the book, Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. Get yourself a copy today. Lee, before we get into your latest for Tablet Mag, we had mentioned DEI in the last segment. And I want to give the audience an example of some of the DEI of late. In 2013, the Los Angeles Department of Fire created a DEI bureau and promoted their first black lesbian to weed out bigoted firefighters on the force. They pay her $400,000 a year as an assistant chief. Her name is Christine Larson. There you go. There's one example. We have another example. The new LA head of DWP, which is the Department of Water and Power, earns $750,000 a year, Lee, in California. A female by the name of Janice Quinones. The man who had the job before her, a man by the name of Marty Adams, who's a male, made $447,000 a year doing the same job. Now, this is the woman who's responsible for making sure, you ready how stupid this sounds, Lee, but this is real, making sure there's water in the fire hydrants, Lee. Yeah. Turns out the firemen went to go turn on those fire hydrants last week during the fires, and there was no water in there. How's that for DEI, Lee?
Well, John, this isn't just DEI. This goes back a long time. And I know about this because, Devin Nunes, whom I've written about, former congressman, now CEO of Truth Social, he first came to Capitol Hill, I believe it was the 2002 election. He first came to the Hill to fight the California water wars. Because what's been going on, this whole garbage about the LA drought, the water shortage. There's no water shortage. This is all, it is policy, right? There should be no problem with water anywhere in California because of the enormous ice pack in the Sierra Nevada. But they run off tons and tons of that water, right? And they say it's for environmental reasons to protect different species, but it's not. It's a political instrument used to target their political opponents or the economic base of their political opponents, which is farmers, right? That's what they're doing. So that's part of the big thing here. I think we need to, you're absolutely right about these DEI hires, but this needs to be seen in a bigger context. What they're pushing down the throat of Californians, right? And the way they're rationalizing this is garbage. There is no reason for water shortages, period. Never mind for the hydrants not to be filled. But the idea that they can't, the idea that it costs so much money to water your lawn or do other or take a shower at different times, I mean, it's absolutely preposterous. So this is very bad. And I'm sure you've seen, as I have, Adam Carolla talking about, well, all these people who voted blue in LA, now they're going to change their minds. Yeah, I hope so, but I doubt it. And the reason I doubt it is because what they have to do is they have to turn against the politicians, right, who've been representing them in their fight against the right. right? It's like none of them know that the water thing is BS, that it's bogus. So, so it's very sad to see all the people. It's horrible to see all the people who have lost their homes, and it's the people who are voting. It's the people who are empowering the left finally who are responsible for this, because they've empowered very sick and very damaged people to ruin the country.
Lee, I've been saying, I spoke with Mark Simone the other day on the show, elections have consequences, and I don't mean to make this political by any means, but when you have Mayor Karen Bass, who you could have voted out of there last year, and you decided to give her another chance, when you have Gavin Newsom in there, you have him as lieutenant governor for many years, and you bring him on as governor for 2 terms. I mean, what do you possibly think you're going to get, Lee? Now all of a sudden these Hollywood elites, they want to wake up because their houses are burning down. I'm sorry, you're fine.
I don't think they're going to wake up. How's that? I don't think they're going to wake up.
I agree with you.
I mean, and this is, you look through the sweep of history. This is what happens. People don't wake up. So that's how I see it. Thankfully, most of the country, or the majority of the country, woke up in time this time to keep Kamala Harris out of the White House. But boy, oh boy, when you remember that she got over 70 million votes. Yeah. People are breathing easy. I like to remind people, like, look, we have a very big problem here, and it's signaled by the fact that she won more than 70 million votes, and very well she could have won. She could have won the White House. The
reason I'm cautiously optimistic, and I agree with you, these idiots in Hollywood, these Hollywood elites, probably aren't going to change, but maybe they will behind the scenes. The reason I'm cautiously optimistic is because LA, for the first time, got rid of Gascon. They brought in an independent district attorney, and President Trump managed to pull over 1 million votes in California this election. So now I know no other politicians are going to be able to ever do what President Trump did, but you know what? It's a step in the right direction, and we could ask for these useful idiots over there to get your head on straight. Elections have consequences, and this is a consequence. This is a consequence of an election. This wasn't a natural disaster, Lee. This is completely preventable. Donald Trump's been talking about it for years. I want to turn to, before we run out of time here, your latest piece for Tablet Mag. The deep state strikes back, a front runner for a top White House intel job, may be planning to run cover for the IC. This according to some sources providing to Tablet Mag, the folks there at tabletmag.com. You can check all of Lee Smith's writings out there. This fella who's allegedly going to head to the NSC, Adam Howard, working for Mike Turner's Intel Committee. What can you tell us about what we all suspected was going to happen? Some deep state plants were going to wiggle their way into the administration to do exactly what they did in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always going to be the case. And that's what we saw in 2016. And they weren't prepared for it. Most members of the Trump team were not prepared for it during that transition. My understanding is that this transition is much smoother, and they are looking to avoid the kind of trouble that they ran into last time. And so this piece was sourced to different, congressional and intelligence sources that brought to my attention that this is an issue of concern, that this guy who's coming in, who's slated to take this position, he's not up for he doesn't have. It's not just that he doesn't have the experience to do the job, but that he has worked to cover for the intelligence community some of the bad things that they've done. So I thought it was. I think people going in need to understand. I think a lot of the picks, most of the picks that the president-elect has chosen to lead his national security team, including National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, are just terrific. They see the threats to our peace and prosperity the way that I do. Waltz believes the problem is China, Russia, Iran. Me too. So it's great. You look at people like Mark Rubio, Pete Hegseth. These are really terrific people, and so I think they're all great. I hope that everyone is more prepared than they were because first of all, it's very. I should watch what I'm saying. It's very hard to prepare for it. There is no way that people can actually prepare for the way that the bureaucracies and the media will go to war with them. This became very clear to me when I was reporting Plot Against the President, just the way that they will go after people. I mean, it's just a swarm like you couldn't believe. And even in Washington, people aren't accustomed to fighting back like that. So people are going to have to be prepared going in. And this is all of Donald Trump's cabinet. And you know, John, it's we've been very fortunate since the November vote that things have been relatively calm. Right. That we have not seen the Democratic Party media melt down over Trump's election the way they did in 2016. Right. But I do not think that this means that they're rolling over. I think that we're going to see a lot of the same stuff, because there's some of Trump's policies and initiatives go to the core of the left, including open borders. This is part of their electoral strategy, open borders, right? So the idea that Trump wants to deport, 10, 20 million people, even closing the borders, that's going to be, that's a real rough issue. There's a lot of rough issues. Election integrity, all of these are going to touch on core progressive Democratic Party concerns.
The first thing we have to do, though, Lee, is to get them confirmed. And from what we're hearing now, some of these folks won't be confirmed for the first month or two heading into this administration, which scares me, because that means you have some of these holdovers. One in particular that I'm worried about is Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI. She needs to hit the ground running. A guest I often have on the show, his name is Russ Tice. He's a former senior NSA intel analyst, and he's a whistleblower blowing the whistle on the Patriot Act. Says that he thinks he's nervous that Tulsi's going to come in and they're going to dangle all sorts of shiny objects in front of her and ooh and ah her and take her eye off the ball. And that's when we're going to get some of these people skating by under the radar. Do you suspect any sort of delay tactic the Dems will try to do to keep this going? And can the Republicans do anything to fight back against that, so that we do have these folks in the first week or two of Trump's inauguration?
Well, they're gonna start hearings within the next couple of weeks. It'll be the first batch. Hegseth, I imagine, will go early. Rubio, I think Kash Patel by the end of January. So the most important national security officials, I believe that they'll be confirmed relatively soon. There's the hearings, and then that's only one part of the confirmation process. Yeah. So I think that they've gone to all the senators and they've done their, they've talked to they've talked to the senators, GOP senators, as well as some Democratic Party senators. So no, I'm not that concerned that Trump won't have the people in place. I mean, look at some of that. Certainly not the principals, but when you're talking about the mid-level, yeah, I don't know exactly how many of those people have gotten in, but there's or how many people have been. How many people have been hired? I speak to people all the time. It's like, yeah, I'm looking at a job at State or looking at a job at NSC, and I haven't really heard anything yet. So, yeah, I hope those people come through too, because those are very important positions. These are the people who are, we see it as in terms of carrying paper, but that's the work of the bureaucracy. That's what they're doing. That's what policy is. It's the work of the bureaucracy. So I'm hopeful that those people, and these are not Senate. Most of these are not Senate confirmable positions, but we want to see them come in as soon as possible and get to work, serve Americans, implement the president's policies.
I've submitted my resume and an application for the chief of retribution. I still haven't heard back.
Oh, that would be good for you.
I don't think I'm going to get the job, but Lou would love for me.
I chief of retribution. Then you got to shave your beard into a Fu Manchu, John.
I don't grow enough facial hair to do so. I'm already struggling with this one, Lee. All right, you're already making me look bad. Before we wrap up here, I know you're strapped on time. I just want to get to real quick the United States on the world stage now as we look forward. It's been an embarrassment for the last 4 years. There's no doubt about it. Here's an image, Lee, from the funeral processions of Jimmy Carter. On the left-hand side, for everyone who's joining us on video, you can see this. It's a tale of two presidents. On the left-hand side, you've got Joe Biden and you've got Justin Trudeau with his head down, laughing at Biden as he walks in. And then you look as Donald Trump comes and takes his seat, and Justin Trudeau looks like he's just wet his pants. with the royal
He's-
family next to him. I mean,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. It's not even
Justin Trudeau. I've never seen a world leader hazed and heckled the way that Trump has gone after Justin Trudeau, and most of it's pretty good spirited. I mean, Donald Trump's a pretty funny guy. He's really really laid into him. I think a lot of what I think it's a lot of what Trump has been saying that shook Trudeau out of the premiership, or has shaken him out of the premiership in Canada. But a lot of the stuff that Donald Trump has said, I mean, look, remember the different things that he said. He said that if the hostages are not released in Gaza by my inauguration, there's going to be all hell to pay. That's very serious. Different people should be taking that seriously. Whether we're talking about the Iranians, whether we're talking about Qatar, whether we're talking about the Palestinian factions like Hamas. So also when Donald Trump is warning the Chinese about pushing fentanyl across our borders, saying, I'm going to tariff you this much. So no, I think he's gotten off on a very strong footing in terms of foreign policy. And of course, some of the stuff seems fantastic, like Greenland. Why Greenland? And people have explained to me and said, well, there are a lot of resources, including rare earth minerals. And so no, I think as a leader on the world stage, it's very impressive. And John, it underscores the fact that when Donald Trump says America first, there are lots of people, including some very famous people, who have a lot of media reach, who believe that America first means, oh no, we're isolationists. We're just going to stay at home and just stare at ourselves and do that for 4 years. No, that's not what Donald Trump means by America first. He means that we're not going to go we're not going to go scouring the world for trouble. Anyone messes with us, we're gonna give them what for. But what America first means is America masters the world. Not withdraws from it, but masters it. So this is what the Greenland stuff means. This is what the Panama Canal saying. The Panamanians have been messing around a little. They're letting the Chinese, tens of thousands of Chinese troops down there, causing American shipping, American commerce, a lot of trouble. So this is all very good. The United States is a global power, right? A bicoastal power with interest on the Atlantic and interest on the Pacific. That's what makes it a very wealthy and very powerful country. Yep. So, and Donald Trump is keen to ensure America's peace and to advance our prosperity. And what that means is being a strong figure on the world stage.
You mentioned two things. Also, a lot of things that people aren't mentioning about the geographical location of Greenland. Just over the cap, it's about a 6-hour flight over to Russia. And I said this to somebody earlier in the week. If we go to war over the next 4 years or 8 years or whatever the distance is and we have Greenland, the war is going to be with Iran. If it's a war with Iran, it's a proxy war with China and Russia as well, most likely. If we go to war with North Korea, it's probably with Russia and China as well. So Russia and China, if we go to war with China, it's with China and Russia. If we go to war with Russia, it's with Russia and China. Most likely is the way that it's looking right now. So to have a 6-hour flight from Greenland over the cap to Russia, I think it's very strategic, as well as ships and everything else that we'll be keeping on Greenland, aside from the McDonald's that Donald Trump will probably build on Greenland as well.
I wonder how much beachfront property there is right now. So I'm talking to people already. It's like, yeah, man, let's buy some condos in Greenland. Yeah, they'll be worth a lot more if Trump winds up buying it. So if anyone wants to go in on a timeshare in Greenland, please reach me through the Great America Show.
Hey, I'll give you Lee's cell phone number right now. Just give me.
Yeah. So if you're interested in a place in Greenland, I mean, why not?
Yeah, you did mention it is beachfront, lakefront property.
Good for everyone. I don't know. I got to look at more closely at a map. But
the other thing you mentioned, Lee, and I want to wrap up with this, is the border and the fentanyl fight. Another thing I say very often in the show, I spoke with Colonel Doug McGregor about it. We're so happy to go fight wars overseas for the last last century, going over Afghanistan, going to Iraq, going to all these places we don't belong, that we have no business invading. We have a war at our southern border, Lee, that we can fight right here at home, and we can. It's the first war we'll win in a very, very, very long time. And if it means using military presence, that's fine. I'm more than happy to have our military on our grounds than sending them overseas to go fight somebody else's war in Ukraine or in Israel or Iran or wherever our military leaders want to send them. I'm not in favor of sending them anywhere, but if it's at our southern border on our soil, I think that's a war that we could win, and it'll be the first victory we can claim in a very long time. Your thoughts as we wrap up here, Lee?
Well, I mean, for me, people are talking about what are we going to do with the border? Like, well, how about just close the border, right? I mean, it's pretty simple solution as far as I'm concerned. But of course, people are still living off the fumes of the Joe Biden administration, where there's all this confusion. No, we can't close the border. We need legislation and bipartisan. It's like, no, you just close the border. That's it. Right. And if they're, the deportation operation is something else. But insofar as now people cross the border, no, just close the border. That's it.
Well, I'm speaking of your drug aspect, Lee, of the fentanyl and the drug factories pouring over.
Close the border. Close the border, and anyone who tries to come through, then that's something else. I don't know. I mean, there are people, I'm sure there's all sorts of planning for this. Like how deep do they want to go into Mexican territory? And we know of, intelligence work being done in Mexico regarding the cartels, but again, right now, I think it's safe to say I'd like to see Donald Trump's first two acts on January 20th to be: one, shut the border, shut it, and two, pardon all nonviolent J6 offenders. Those are the two things that I think would be just phenomenally awesome and really set the tone and easy enough to do, right?
Lee, I promised that was the last question, but I finally just figured something we disagree on. The nonviolent issue that we hear people saying about not pardoning them. The issue I see with that, Lee, is by not pardoning these folks as well as so many people, and you know this better than anybody, we're overcharged. So if you went through a door that was closed, maybe you're considered a violent protester. If you stole Nancy Pelosi's lectern or you put your feet on, maybe that's considered a violent protester. So how do you distinguish the two? Because this government is overcharged. Every single person.
I'd like to think, and I don't know, but I'd like to think that right now there's a whole bunch of people on the Trump transition team, not a whole bunch, but at least one person who's going through all these cases. I mean, Donald Trump has been very attentive to the different problems with J6 families and stuff like that. So I'd like to think there are people around who are looking at that and saying, we got to change that person's life for the better. On January 20th, that person has to get out. So again, I don't have any actual insight into that, but I'd like to think that's happening. I'd like to think that this would be one of Donald Trump as president, one of his first acts.
Yeah, I say pardon them all and let the Democrats cry about it and let them know they can never do this again on American soil. This act of terrorism they've done to these folks for the last 4 years. It's absolutely disgusting. Lee Smith, we thank you so much for joining us today. Folks, the book, Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. You can get it at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, EncounterBooks.com, wherever you folks get your books. Lee Smith, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure and always an honor to speak with you.
Thank you, John Fawcett. Great, as always, to speak to you, too.
And Happy New Year to you and your family, Lee.
Thanks, man. You too. Bye.
Folks, thank you all for joining us today here on The Great America Show. Please be sure to join us back here tomorrow for The Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. As I say each and every day on the show, I appreciate you all joining us into this new year and continuing on this great show that Lou Dobbs so honorably left me, and I'm forever in debt to him, and I appreciate you along for this ride with us, and I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Chances are, if you're listening to this right now, you probably are, and I really appreciate you folks and wish you all a happy and a healthy new year, and hope it's more prosperous the next 4 years and this new year than it was for the last four under Joseph Robinette Biden. Folks, we'll see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.